Welcome back to the Middleborn Arms channel. Today we're going to be making another fun weapon, a Crusader Arming Sword. So the steps are we're going to cut the shape, then refine, and then plane the edges, and as we like to say in the old French country, huile. It's the oil. Then make guard, do pommel, and final step, it's most important, retake Constantinople. And here, ready to retake Constantinople, is a little quick sketch of a happy Crusader guy holding a Crusader Arming Sword. Look at him, isn't he happy? And yeah, no, my quick sketching skills have not increased since the last video. Mostly because I drew this at the same time as I drew the one for the last video, so. And here we start by cutting up the shapes for the handle. The bandsaw blade is incredibly dull, which I didn't quite realize until I started doing it, and hickory is a very dense wood, so it was not having the best of times. It was having as much fun as a kangaroo in a no jumping zone. So yeah, just no bueno, no fun at all, and not exactly safe either. And one thing you want to know about bandsaws, they are scary as heck. And as you're pushing your wood through, if it's not quite sharp enough, it's going to catch and it's going to lead you into making mistakes. And because I am a save-conscious woodworker, I just screwed up. Alright, and here I plane it down to about just shy of 3/4 of an inch thick. I said wide in the last video, but it's thickness. So you don't want it to be too thick, but not too thin either. And then as I plane the blade bevels and edges into shape, I start at the tip. That'll allow me to get a nice distal taper. And a distal taper is when the blade at the base, and you're looking down the edge, is thick at the bottom and thins out towards the top. So you start at the top, get a bunch of thin shavings, and as you go down, you're pulling wood off the entire blade-ish, kind of, and that creates a distal taper. As you can see, I am wearing my tactical Kevlar safety sandals. These are the finest that you can find at the Walmart. And remember, safety first, kids. Always safety first. Also, don't test the edge of the planer blade on your finger. It is not safe. I have done so, and I have found out the hard way why you don't want to do that. And whenever I sand, I always add some sketch marks. What you didn't see is me applying water. I always water pop between grits, going all the way up to 220. And now we add the huile, the oil. The French say it in such a weird way. Huile. Huile. They put an H in there, but the H is pointless. If you haven't seen Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events with Jim Carrey, it is one of his best performances. It's fantastic. Just, FYI. Also has a great Thomas Newman score. But oiling is the best. I love the grain colors on this wood. I have this beautiful piece that I was able to make several swords out of. And it's one of the joys of working with wood is you're always getting something a little bit different. And here I'm fitting the guard onto the sword. I always inset the blade a little bit into the guard about halfway through. And so you want to make sure everything is marked correctly so that it fits in together the correct way every time. And here I started using the coping saw and thought it would work as well as a katana. It didn't. But this sucked, so I went right back over to the bandsaw. And as you can tell, the bandsaw has a new blade, and it cuts very, very nicely. Alright, And you always want to have good dust collection in your shop. And when you're sanding, as well as a mask, this is like an R2 or something with an N95 filter. It works really, really well. I quickly realized that I did not want to shape it on that belt sander, so I went over to the spindle sander. The spindle sander allows me to get a nice, crisp, level edge or end on everything, so it works out really well. And it's fun. Look at that thing. Look at that spindle sander. And here I'm putting in bevels. As you'll find out, I'm a huge fan of bevels. And this just gives this guard its unique look. I make all of my Crusader sword guards this way. And this takes a long time, so skip. And here I'm just adding some more bevels because bevels are fun. And if you've noticed, I just recently figured out that there is a speed ramping function on my editing software on my iPad. So yes, I have used it throughout this video because I think it's funny. And I even added some funny sound effects that you can't hear because I turned down the volume. Anyway, you always want to sand up again to 220 grit. Get a good sanding job so the oil adheres and everything works correctly. Woo. And now we fit it, and it looks really good. So we are going to move on to the next part. The next step is l'huile, because you want to be able to put the oil on your cross-guard for your sword, or however the French say it with their funny little silly French accents. Yeah, don't worry. I can mock the French. I lived there for many years. The oil always looks good. And here I'm going to start with the joinery for the pommel. I always want to do this before you start doing any of the shaping, because if you don't get this right, then there's no point in doing the shaping, and I have ruined so many guards by trying to shape it and then screwing up the jointing. So, anyway. And in case you're wondering, I have just a 4 chisel Stanley Sweetheart set. These work really great, especially when you keep them nice and sharpened. Whenever you're trying to do a joint like this, you want to get it as close a fitting as possible. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. I measure and remeasure and measure and measure again, and just this is one of those times where it was just slightly too big. So instead of using wood glue, I am going to switch over to epoxy because epoxy will create a better bond. And yes, I have a kid in the background because they think Daddy's workshop is the funnest place to be. And here is another bevel. Woohoo! And as you can, there are 16 sides, so pivot. Pivot! And just keep beveling all 16 sides. Pivot! Whee! Pivot! It's actually pretty fun to do. Pivot! And I would like to again just say how awesome this rasp is. It doesn't clog up. It doesn't get gunky like other rasps and rasps and files that I've used. So yeah, if you're looking for a rasp, get a Shinto rasp. And no, I'm not sponsored because I've had like a grand total of 25 views on all my stuff. So I sanded this again up to 220 grit, get rid of all the lines so it's nice and smooth. Then you huile it again. Huile le pommel. That's me channeling my inner Inspector Clouseau. The Steve Martin superior version, obviously. And I also bevel the handle. Usually this stands out really well if I'm doing a cord wrap, but I will not be doing a cord wrap today. I'm going to do a leather strap wrap. Leather strap. Anyway. Mixing up epoxy to put on the guard and the pommel. And like I said earlier, I made the joint for the pommel a little bit too large. So I'm going to end up having to mix even more epoxy to fill up the gap. Epoxy is great for this. It's better than wood glue because it will harden in and of itself and give it a nice connection point, and it makes it really strong and solid in theory. And here's me mixing up that other little bit. Now, some of you have seen the K-bar that is in my apron, and maybe you're wondering what it's for. And it is for this. Because why use a cutting tool when you can use a K-bar? Fun fact, when my wife and I got married, we had essentially nothing. And that was what we used to open cans. And then I had a cold steel Gladius machete, again, highly recommend. And I used that to slice meat and vegetables. So, fun times, fun memories. All right. And here I'm using my marking knife just to rough out the leather a little bit. When the leather is too smooth, the glue will not have anything to adhere to, so you always want to scuff things up just a little bit, maybe with some sandpaper or with a knife or something. That way it sticks really well. And I didn't rough that bit, so I'm actually going to add a little tack nail to hold it all down. And that's it. Earlier on, I did engrave my maker's mark, MA from Middleborn Arms, as well as the word Deus Vult. That's just standard with all the Crusader swords. And it's done. And here I am walking out to put it against the thing for the picture. I don't know why my camera was running, but hey, look, there's my underarm. Woo! And that's it. That is the finished sword. Like I said in my previous video, I'm probably going to say this is my favorite build for every sword, and this is really one of my favorite builds. It looks amazing, at least in my eyes. And yeah, there it is in all of its glory. These are available on my shop at middlebornarms.com. I will leave a link in the description. Every sword is going to be built this way, and if you get one, you can show your friends that you've got a video of how this sword was made. Anyway, like, subscribe, do whatever the heck you do. Go touch grass, pet a wombat. Appreciate you watching and listening. We'll catch you on the flip side.